Hi, everyone. Hope you all can see me. Hope you all can hear me. I'm coming to you live from the Heritage Center tonight. We just finished our board meeting, and now we are getting set for what looks like behind me a incredibly fun rendition of Dr. Sheldon Cooper's "Fun with Flags." But actually, no, I'm coming to you live from the Heritage Center tonight. I'm sitting in our office, and tonight we're going to talk about the PGA Championships and the history, and continue our talk on the history of golf in Western Pennsylvania. Tonight is Chapter 8 of 9, so next week is going to be our very last Fireside Chats with Dave, which is going to discuss the history of golf in Western Pennsylvania. And then the plan is in July to do one every 2 weeks and on different topics every week. So we're going to mix it up a little bit once we head into July and once the center reopens, which we are reopening tomorrow. So if you are looking to visit the Heritage Center, we will be opening our doors to the public starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning and resuming our regular business hours, but masks are required within the building. So please, if you're going to come down for everybody's safety, please make sure you wear a mask. So as I always start out these little talks, of course, my name is Dave Moore. I'm the museum manager at the McKeesport Regional History and Heritage Center, where I am coming to you live from this evening. And if you've missed any of our previous 7 chapters of the history of golf in Western Pennsylvania, be sure to check our Facebook page and our YouTube page to get caught up on all the different topics we've talked about so far. But tonight we are going to talk about the PGA Championship, which is the third oldest major championship in men's professional golf. It dates back to 1916 when the tournament was created. And there have been 5 PGA championships in our area. If you saw the flyer, I misnumbered when I said 3. There have been 3 PGA championships contested at Oakmont Country Club, but there have been 5 total contested in Western Pennsylvania. So Oakmont has hosted 3. The Pittsburgh Field Club has hosted 1, and so has Laurel Valley Golf Club, which we talked about a couple weeks ago when we discussed the Ryder Cup and international competitions in our area. Now, the PGA Championship, if you watch golf today, if you're familiar with the current state of the tournaments, the PGA Championship today is a 4-round, 18-hole stroke play event. So every shot obviously counts towards your total score. And it's pretty common for the majority of tournaments on the PGA Tour in today's day and age. But the PGA Championship, when it began in 1916, actually was a match play event. The PGA of America was born in 1916, and their championship with it. So there wasn't a huge there weren't very large fields in the early editions, so they took to the same spirit as the U.S. Amateur Championship and went with a match play format. So in the early years of the PGA Championship, it was 5 rounds of match play. The first 2 rounds were 18-hole match play rounds, and then the last 3 were 36-hole match play rounds. And then as the tournament started to take off and become more popular and the fields were getting larger and larger, the PGA of America decided to do an 18-hole stroke play qualifier to begin PGA Championship week to weed out the players, and the top 64 players would then qualify for match play, very similar to the NCAA bracket, if you're familiar with March Madness. And that was the format of the PGA Championship all the way until 1958. And after some complaints around golf, and most notably by 9-time major champion Ben Hogan, the PGA of America changed its championship to a 72 hole, 4 rounds of 18 holes stroke play event in 1958, and it's been contested that way every year since. So that's the tournament breakdown of how it was played, and then where they have been hosted in our area to date. So let's jump right into it. We have 5 tournaments to talk about it, and let's get right after it. So the very first PGA Championship that was contested in our area was in 1922. It was only the 5th PGA Championship ever conducted, as the 1917 and 18 editions were canceled by World War I. And the host course for the initial Western Pennsylvania PGA Championship was Oakmont Country Club. And the course played at a par 74 and 6,700 yards. And the winner was actually a local pro, and who would go on to be one of the legends of the game, Gene Sarazen. Now, Sarazen was born in New York, but he got the head professional job at Titusville Country Club in 1921. And the following year, after what some describe as a physical altercation in the Titusville parking lot, actually got a job with Highland Country Club, which used to be in the North Hills. And that is where Gene Sarazen was the resident pro for the 1922 season. That year, he ended up winning the U.S. Open, which he won at Skokie Country Club outside of Chicago. And after his win at Skokie, he actually went on a bit of an exhibition tour. He was the newly crowned U.S. Open champion. And at this time, professional golf, as I mentioned a few weeks back, professional golf was not exactly what it is today. It wasn't looked upon how it is today. Professional golfers were often considered second-class citizens at this time. So for a PGA professional to really make money at this time, he had to have a teaching job at a local country club. But if he really wanted to make money, especially playing golf, he had to go on exhibition tours, and you had to be a relatively big name to do so. So when Sarazen wins the 1922 U.S. Open, he actually goes on an exhibition tour with the likes of Walter Hagen, who is an 11-time major champion in his own right. And on the eve of the 1922 PGA, Gene Sarazen was sitting in a restaurant in Cleveland, Ohio, and a busboy came up to him and said, "Gene, why are you still here?" And Gene, bewildered, said, "Well, I'm having dinner." And the kid said, "But the PGA Championship starts at Oakmont tomorrow. You need to be in Pittsburgh." Sarazen had gotten his dates mixed up. So he had to literally flee his dinner table, grab his clubs, and jump the last train to Pittsburgh. And he honestly should have been disqualified by the PGA of America because he did show up late for the tournament. But because he was the reigning U.S. Open champion and they were trying to grow the prestige of their tournament, they allowed Sarazen to play. And lo and behold, Sarazen would go on to win the championship. So, as I mentioned, the early editions of the PGA Championship were a match play tournament. And Sarazen basically rolled through the competition. He was playing very good golf at the time. He defeated Tom Mahan, Willie Ogg, Frank Sporgel, a local pro and 2-time major champion Jock Hutchinson, and then Bobby Cruikshanks to reach the finals of the 1922 PGA. And in the finals, Sarazen would defeat a gentleman by the name of Emmett French to win his very first of 3 PGA championships in his career. And for that victory, Sarazen won the whopping grand prize of $500. And when you think of the purses on the PGA Tour today, the PGA Championship pays roughly $2 million to the winner. So quite the change in the purses. Now, Sarazen became the first to win the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship in the same season. He was joined later by Walter Hagen, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Brooks Koepka in that feat. The next PGA Championship in our area comes in 1937, and this is the first time that the Pittsburgh Field Club hosts a major nationwide tournament. The course played at 6,665 yards at a par 72, And the winner that week was Denny Shute. Now, Shute was a native of Cleveland, Ohio, where he also attended Case Western University. And he was the defending PGA champion when he came to the Field Club in 1937, as he had won the 1936 PGA Championship at Pinehurst in North Carolina. And Shute played very well all week, cruising to the finals, where he would face off against Harold Jug McSpadden. And McSpadden would go on to a very good PGA Tour career and was very good friends with the legendary Byron Nelson. And Shute would win the finals of 1937 to claim his second consecutive PGA Championship in 37 holes. And he became just one of 4 players in PGA history to defend his title. Walter Hagen actually did it 3 or 4 years in a row in the 1920s. Then Denny Shute did it in 36 and 37. And that feat wouldn't be accomplished again until Tiger Woods in 1999 and 2000, and then Brooks Koepka in 2017 and 2018. So some very good company for Denny Shute. The PGA returned to Western Pennsylvania in 1951 and once again returned to Oakmont Country Club, where Oakmont became the first course to host multiple PGA championships. And the course played at 6,882 yards, and par was down to 72 from the par 74 in 1922. And the winner that week was the legend himself, Sam Snead. Now, Snead at this point in 1951 had already won 60 PGA Tour events and 4 major championships. And he had a very good week at Oakmont. And he actually would go on to have success at Oakmont again in 1953, where he would finish runner-up to Ben Hogan in the U.S. Open. But during this week in 1951, Sam Snead, with the tournament still being played in a match play format, would defeat Fred Haas, Marty Fergal, major champion Lloyd Mangrum, major champion Jack Burke, and Charlie Bassler en route to the finals. And in the finals, Snead would face off against Walter Berkemo and defeat him handedly, 7-6, meaning he won the match outright on the 13th hole. And this would be his third and final career PGA championship, though Snead would go on to win 21 more times after this tournament, and he currently is tied with Tiger Woods for the most PGA Tour wins in a career with 82. And he has 7 majors. He would go on to add 2 Masters to his name after this PGA. But he would fall short of the career Grand Slam, as he never won the U.S. Open, a tournament which he finished runner-up in several times. Moving forward, now we're getting into the first stroke play PGA Championships in our area, and the very first one came in 1965 at Laurel Valley Golf Club. Of course, this course was co-founded and partially designed by Latrobe native and golf legend Arnold Palmer, and it played at 7,090 yards and a par of 71. A fun note of this PGA, it would be the final PGA Championship appearance of the legendary Ben Hogan. Hogan won 2 PGAs in the 1940s, in 46 and 48. And after his victory in 48, Hogan refused to play in the PGA Championship again while it remained a match play tournament. And Hogan was a man of his word. After 1948, he did not play in another PGA Championship until 1960, when it went to a stroke play format. Hogan would have a pretty good week in his final appearance in the PGA. He would finish 15th, and at that point in his career, he was well past his prime and was only playing a handful of tournaments a year, maybe 2 or 3. But the winner that week in 1965 was a Texan by the name of Dave Marr, and he was the son of a professional golfer, and he later attended Rice University and the University of Houston. He had a relatively successful PGA Tour career. He won 3 times. His best season did come in 1965 when he won the PGA. He shot a 4-under 280 over the course of 4 rounds and held off Jack Nicklaus and Billy Casper, 2 multiple major champions to win the PGA at Laurel Valley. And that very same day, his third child was actually born. So what a great day for Dave Marr. He takes home the Wanamaker Trophy, and his son Tony was also born. And a local connection, Arnie and Dave Marr were very good friends, and Arnie claimed that he was incredibly thrilled to have one of his best friends win on one of his golf courses. And Marr would go on to play in the Ryder Cup, on the U.S. Ryder Cup team in 1965, and he was named the PGA Tour's Player of the Year for his win at the PGA and his strong finishes in the U.S. Open and the Open Championship over in Britain. So that's 1965, and the very last PGA Championship from the PGA Tour to have been hosted in our area was in 1978. And it would be hosted at Oakmont Country Club. This would be the first time that Oakmont would play host to a stroke play PGA Championship. And the course played at 6,989 yards and a par of 71. And the winner that week was somebody who was certainly down on his luck, and that was Texan John Mahaffey. Mahaffey was a standout, an absolute stud player at the University of Houston, where he won the 1970 NCAA individual title. And in 1971, he would turn pro, and he would win his first PGA Tour event in 1973. But after that, Mahaffey's career went severely downhill for the next 7 years or so. He would fail to win on the PGA Tour for a number of years and went through a rough divorce off the course. And when he came to Oakmont in 1978, he was still having a very rough season. As he told me, he had only won about $10,000 that year, which was really low. He was struggling, didn't have a ton of confidence, but he was just hoping to have a good week. And he found something at Oakmont, and he played really well. He was 7 shots back going into the final round behind multiple major champion Tom Watson. And what Mahaffey was hoping for was a solid finish and a very nice paycheck. And Mahaffey went out, played incredibly well on Sunday, while Tom Watson faltered on the back 9 and allowed a 3-way playoff between Mahaffey, Watson, and then the 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. And on the second playoff hole, Mahaffey made a stunning birdie on the very difficult second hole at Oakmont to win his very first major championship and his second career PGA Tour win. And this really re-sparks John Mahaffey's career. The very following week, he would play in another PGA Tour event in Massachusetts, and he would win. And then over the next decade, he would win basically every year of the 1980s, including the 1986 Players' Championship at the TPC of Sawgrass. So his career was completely restarted by his win at Oakmont. And you'll probably recognize John Mahaffey as a golf analyst for ESPN and the Golf Channel in recent years. And the same with Dave Marr. Dave Marr also went on to do television as well. So those are the 5 PGA Championships that we've hosted in our area. I hope you guys all learned something about the PGAs tonight that you might not have known beforehand. It's a wonderful championship. If you ever get to attend, I highly recommend it. I got to go to one when I was in high school, and it really sparked my love for this game. And as you can see behind me, I've been to a lot of tournaments since then. And obviously I love golf because I wouldn't be talking to you guys about it for 9 weeks if I didn't. So I thank you all for tuning in. As I said earlier, if you missed any of the previous 7 episodes, make sure to check them out on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Next week will be the very last week of Fireside Chats, focusing on the history of golf in Western Pennsylvania. Basically, what I'm going to do is talk about some of the players that have made an impact that we haven't talked about yet, and who have been making an impact more recently in the golf world. We're going to talk about the golf courses, where they stand today, some of the major ones that we've talked about, such as Oakmont, Allegheny, Laurel Valley, the Field Club, Fox Chapel, and things like that. And we'll talk a little bit about the Western Pennsylvania Golf Association and what they're doing today and things like that. So make sure you tune in next week. We will be back to our regular 7 p.m. start time, and I will be coming to you live from my living room that night. So you will get to see the actual fire and not my version of Fun with Flags. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Heritage Center is opening tomorrow, June 11th, at 10 a.m. If you want to come into the center and see our new exhibits, especially our brand new arts and entertainment exhibit, we encourage you to do so. But we remind you to please wear a mask and please be prepared to have your temperature taken as you come in the door, just for the safety of our volunteers, our staff, and other patrons to the museum. So we hope to see you out here starting tomorrow and over the coming days as we try to get back to normal and get everybody back to the center. So please make sure you come and say hi. Please go back and watch any previous versions of Fireside Chats with Dave, focusing on the history of golf in Western Pennsylvania on Facebook and YouTube. And I think that's about it for me tonight, guys. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Make sure you are still being cautious with the pandemic. And we'll see you all at the center starting tomorrow. So have a great night, and talk to you soon. Bye.